Okay, so that's the testimony of Danny Jo Carter, probably one of the most important witnesses in the Claude Tex McIver case. She was the driver that night. She witnessed the whole shooting. She was right there. Now you hear her being questioned by the defense attorney about what her attitude was like, as well as Tex's attitude after the shooting, after Diane McIver was pronounced dead at the hospital, and what that was like. But I want to analyze this case a little bit more. So I have a very special guest joining me right now, our very own Ronn Blitzer. Ron, it's great to have you here back on the actual program, even though you do all these great articles on lawandcrime.com.
Oh, always good to be here in the studio, Jesse.
When you first heard this case, the Claude Tex McIver case, and you knew that Danny Jo Carter was going to testify, the woman who drove the car, were you surprised that this even went to trial? I mean, you have somebody, an eyewitness. Doesn't it seem like a clear-cut case of murder?
Not to me at the time. For me, it really took hearing all the testimony, and for me, a lot of it had to do with the aftermath of the shooting. Because, you know, when I heard about what had actually happened in the car and the excuses given and the claims that this was an accident, and going into the little bit I knew before the trial of some of the history, it really was unclear to me at the time. Once I heard all of the testimony in the case, then things became a little bit clearer.
Now, we are not going to reveal the verdict right now in this case. We're going to do it a little bit later on today. My question to you is, if he intentionally wanted to kill his wife, why do it when not only a stranger is in the car, but her best friend?
Exactly. So that really goes into why there were so many questions for me going into this case, because you have prosecutors saying this was a cold-blooded murder, but it happened in a car with someone else present driving the car. This was, he was claiming, as we'll see in these clips, that he had been sleeping on and off. So I thought that the defense definitely played. They definitely gave a decent defense, showing that this was an accident, and I really did not know going into it which way it was going to go.
Yeah.
Again, we're not going to go into what the verdict was in this case, but until it was announced, I really didn't know what it was going to be.
And that's one of the things that we love about this case. That's why we're recapping it, because it divided people one way or another. Now, you heard Ron say before that it was the attitude after the shooting. It was the actions of Tex McIver after the shooting that really put him in the hot seat. And we can't forget that he wasn't just charged with murder. He was also facing 3 counts of witness tampering, which leads me into my next part of this case. You are about to hear a voicemail that Tex McIver left to Tom Carter. This is Danny Jo Carter's husband. Now listen very carefully. Is this someone who is trying to cover up something? Is this someone who is trying to manipulate the testimony of a witness? Is this witness tampering? Take a look.
Tommy Lee is Tex. Sir, let me just be plain. Danny is about to send me to prison. Please erase this voicemail message, but call me right away. Y'all have no idea the problem this is causing. It's innocent, but it's absolutely nuclear for me. Please call me.
Yikes. Okay, Ron, you hear that. What do you think? Witness tampering?
It doesn't sound good. Now, if you're the defense, you could say that this is not an admission of guilt. He's afraid that he's going to be sent to prison, but he's an attorney. He could be afraid that whatever testimony comes out just wouldn't look good,
right,
to law enforcement or to a jury, and that he believes that he's going to end up getting in trouble, even despite this being an accident. But when you're telling someone, delete this message that I'm leaving you right now because I'm afraid of going to prison, it's pretty clear.
Yeah, that is something that he probably regrets doing.
Yeah.
But as you said, that's not a clear indication that this was an intentional shooting. And there's so much to talk about in the Claude Tex McIver case. But when we come back, we're talking about Shayna Hubers. Stay tuned.
Some may say, because you've obviously you're going through your retrial and your procedures, going through it. Some may say that this is more by reaching out, this is more of either a publicity stunt or something to derail your second trial? What would you say to somebody that says that?
This is no stunt. We actually genuinely love each other. I love Richie, Unique, Richard, Devon McVie, Junior, and to me, it's nothing but real. It's nothing but genuine love that we feel for one another. And he would tell you the same.
So he's written extensively actually on that very point.
Okay.
So this isn't tied to any justification on trying to move the case out of Campbell County or any gameplay as it pertains to your trial?
Although I do feel that it's wrong that my case hasn't been moved out of Campbell County. I do feel like I've been treated unfairly by Campbell County justice system, and that's a separate issue. Mm-hmm. It's something I still believe in, but it's a separate issue, and this has nothing to do.
Do you think you can get a fair trial in the second round?
I don't believe I can gain a fair trial in Campbell County. I don't believe that that's possible here in this county.
Is that because of all the media coverage, or why would you think that?
I feel like there's a biased opinion against me here, and that's one reason why we felt like we'd be retaliated against in this situation. Mm-hmm. This is not a publicity stunt. This is not BS. We genuinely love each other and have love for one another. I feel that Richard is my soulmate. The change of venue is an entirely separate issue that I...
Okay, let's talk about this real quick. When she keeps talking about Richard, it's because she married someone while in jail, a Richard McBee, who now goes by the name Unique Taylor. This is a transgender individual that she married while in prison. And again, the question became this whole information about her getting married. Is this all a publicity stunt in order to derail this retrial? Lot of things to talk about with Miss Hubers. So let me bring back in Ronn Blitzer. Ron, let's start from the beginning for anybody who doesn't know. Why was she charged with the murder of her boyfriend? Wasn't it self-defense?
So that's what she claimed, but I've taken a look at some of the footage from her police interview, after she was first questioned, and when she was talking to officers, she was claiming that this was self-defense, but it was noted that she didn't really shed any tears. She didn't act as people might have expected her to, and then when she was alone in the room, it was completely different. She was walking around, singing, saying, "I did it," twirling around. So this behavior of hers after she was called in for questioning really, made this look like this was more than just self-defense.
And she made it seem that she was the victim and almost happy to kill Ryan. Didn't she make a comment about the nose job comment? Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah. She made a comment about how, he had been wanting to get a nose job, and then she just casually said, well, I gave it to him.
By shooting
him in the face. So, yeah, that does not sound like someone who is upset over acting in self-defense. This sounds like someone who knew what she was doing.
But it's not just her comments. So if you look at the crime scene, was there evidence of this struggle that she said? Was there evidence that this man was actually her attacker? I know that when they did the autopsy on him, he had a couple of medications in his system, and I believe that the defense experts will come forward and say that can create violent behavior. In fact, Shayna Huber's mom has said in the past that she got the creeps from the victim. But that's all well and good. What was the crime scene actually like?
Yeah, so, you look to the crime scene for evidence that is going to support a theory for the prosecution of the defense. But here, nothing, it didn't entirely line up, which raises some questions. But what really interested me was a text message that she had sent to her friend, I believe it was 11 days before the shooting, where she flat out said that she was planning on killing him and making it look like an accident.
Right. It was a very short, only a week before, 2 weeks before,
yeah.
She texted her friend that she wanted to kill him.
Yeah, they were going to a shooting range, and she had said to her friend in a text message that she wanted to just turn around, shoot him, and make it look like an accident. Now, she didn't do that at the time, but like a week or so later, he's dead. She claims it was an accident. it doesn't look good.
And I also know that she had conversations with inmates who testified or were prevalent in the first case that said that she thought about doing the insanity plea, but she claimed that she was too smart, that she had too high of an IQ. Ladies and gentlemen, what Ron and I are basically saying is this is a unique case. This is one you're definitely going to follow, and we are going to cover as much as we possibly can about this case. Again, there's no cameras allowed in the courtroom. It's unfortunate. Maybe it'll change. If it does, that'll be great. But in the meantime, we're going to update you. We have Aaron Keller down there, and we'll discuss this case in its entirety. Again, the Shayna Hubers case, it's currently in jury selection, so we expect opening statements either later today, maybe tomorrow, sometime early in the week, and we'll let you know. Now, we're going to switch gears ourselves. We're going to talk more about the Claude Tex McIver case. Let's go back to Atlanta, Georgia. One of the biggest cases we covered here on Law and Crime. And if what first the defense said this was all a tragic accident when their client shot his wife in the back seat of a moving car, that the gun just accidentally went off. What I want to do is play the testimony of Officer Frank Stroop from the Emory Police Department. And he's going to talk about when he realized there might have been a crime here. Take a look. Okay, so that's Officer Brian Ricker from the Atlanta Police, and one of the things that he talked about was the fact that there was an attorney present with Claude Tex McIver at the hospital. I'm here with Ronn Blitzer. Ron, that's not a crime. Let's think about it for a second. Whether or not he intentionally killed his wife or not, is it unusual for him to have an attorney in that kind of situation?
Given the fact that he himself is an attorney, I would not say it's unusual. He's in a position where he knows that people are going to be looking at him whether or not this was an accident or not. He knows how cases can go and how things can kind of spiral out of control in certain situations. So he wants to take care of himself. So, to an outsider, it may not look good for him to just have an attorney come so quickly. But, if you're coming at it from his perspective, the perspective of an attorney who knows how investigations can go and he wants to take care of himself, it doesn't seem all that strange.
But was it a little too soon? His wife dies, and he shot his wife. His wife ends up dying in the hospital. First person he calls is the attorney. Is that questionable?
Questionable, yes. Is there an answer for it? Also, yes. So, we'll put it that way.
Ron, that was a great lawyer answer right there. So, speaking about attorneys, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to play some more of Officer Brian Ricker. And it gets good because we're going to talk about his conversation with Danny Jo Carter, his police interview with her. And you heard a little bit of it there, but she is really one of the key figures in this entire case. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. That was Officer Brian Ricker, and let's try to understand why this testimony is so important. I'm here with Ronn Blitzer from our very own Law and Crime. Ron, the idea that Danny Jo Carter would have made a statement that she observed scary people around the intersection, how important is that for the jury to hear?
It's very important because if there was any kind of threatening activity in that neighborhood while they were driving through, that would support Tex McIver's defense that he was holding a gun because he was afraid and he needed it for protection.
And did you find it strange at any aspect of this that Diane McIver was the one who handed the gun to her husband? What do you think about that?
So, to me, that also helps the defense, because if there had been some sort of conflict going on and between those two, if she feared that her husband might be capable of something like this, she would not hand him a gun. It says that there was no argument going on at the time, that everything was pretty good in the car at that moment in time, and she would have no reason to suspect anything would be happening.
Then again, maybe she had no reason to suspect anything was going to go on, but perhaps the motives of Claude McIver were a lot more nefarious than she thought. When we come back, we're going to analyze that crime scene, the car. Stay tuned. And welcome back, everybody. We are talking about the Claude Tex McIver case from Atlanta, Georgia. We're talking about this bizarre series of events that happened inside that car on that fateful night when this man shot his wife from the back seat of this car. Her best friend was driving, and he claimed that this was all an accident, that the gun went off by itself. Now, we are going to talk about that crime scene, the car, in a minute. But before we do, fortunately, I have to sign off my very first guest for the day. Ron, it was great having you here. Ronn Blitzer. You got to watch his articles. You got to read his articles on lawandcrime.com. Thanks so much for coming on.
Always good to be here.
Always good to have